Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Booked, a place to explore the realms of creativity. Today's guest is R.A. Busby, winner of the horror category for the 2025 Small Spec Book Awards. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm really, really well. I've been looking forward to this ever since I started prepping for this episode because your books sound so like the kind of books I like reading. So I'm excited to talk about them and talk about you as a writer. But I firstly wanted to congratulate you on your win in the horror category for the Small Spec Book Awards for 2025 for your book, You Will Speak for the Dead, which I believe is your latest release.
Yes, yes, it is, and it's a genuine honor to be recognized with other books that need to get recognition that
Mm,
are that are deliberately off the beaten path, and I think more people need to beat their way along the path to
mhm.
get to them, and so I'm very genuinely honored.
I totally agree with you because I think this was the first year that the SSBA was conceived. So seeing this thing develop and become the thing that it's becoming has been very exciting to watch because there's not enough specific recognition for indie presses, and that's like the backbone of this whole thing is to recognize indie presses in those areas of horror, science fiction, and fantasy. So I'm really, really thrilled that A, you won, and B, that you were part of this really cool thing. um, that I mean, at the point of conception. So I don't know why I made it all birthy.
Well, you know.
I mean, it is painful writing and publishing. I do understand that.
Well, you know, the thing is that it not only does a lot of my the fiction that I write center around birth and pregnancy, including this one,
Uh-huh.
but you know, but it is your intellectual child that you do see through many stages.
Mm, yes, I think it was just in the back of my mind. Maybe that's why. So yeah, this is very, very cool, and I believe that this is published by Stellarform Press.
Yes, yes, it is, and I loved working with them, especially Selena Middleton, who is the lifeblood of that press, and she
Oh.
was so committed to the work and to offering, um, thoughtful and sensitive suggestions for
Mm.
what about this, or could we strengthen this, or and I she made it a better book, and I can only
Oh.
hope that other authors out there have someone who reads with that degree of care and
Mhm.
sensitivity and pertinent, effective suggestions. It's just a genuine benefit.
Oh, for sure.
So
And that's the ideal scenario for an editor is to have somebody that cares so much about the story that you've written that they only want to help nurture it rather than like make it fit into this vessel that is easily marketable as being the goal.
mm.
Um, yeah, I'm really glad that you had that experience, that you have that relationship with her because it's not that easy to find, I don't think.
I think it's not,
Mm,
and you know, and I know my writing well enough to know that it's, you know, it's probably never going to be mainstream,
mm,
in its conception, and so I appreciate the work to making it the best work that it already was,
mm.
rather than something that it wasn't, and that means a lot to me.
Oh, for sure. Because I mean, I've heard real life horror stories of people who have to break off that relationship because they're trying to completely change the identity of the story. When that's not the point, it's about polishing it and making it shine. So I think that's deeply awesome. That you had that, and I mean, it seems to have worked because you won an awards, which
I
is good.
No, I'm incredibly lucky and very grateful. So yeah, I highly recommend, you know, authors who are writing, eco fiction or, to seek out Stellar Form because,
Mm.
whether you're a writer of or reader of, I think that there's such beautiful work there that it should be shared.
Oh, that's a lovely advertisement. Uh, so, what was your experience like with like the querying process? Like, it was are they the sort of press that you query with directly? How did you develop that relationship to get your book published with them?
Oh, I this poor book. Nobody seemed to be nobody it didn't seem to be the quite the right fit for anybody, which was,
Hmm.
which was disappointing because I thought it was good. I liked it.
Mhm.
Um, and I came upon Stelliform, and I read their mission statement, their commitment to looking at that interact between human beings and the environment and climate change,
Mm.
and I thought, they might like this book, and and it was really a lovely fit, and so honestly, I think it was a case of the absolutely the right publisher for this work, and so I'm delighted.
That's fab. So, were you did you spend a significant amount of time trying to get somebody to pick the book up?
Oh, I always do.
Mhm.
It's one of those where, you send it out to publishers that you think would be amenable to the work, and you go to it a million times and you polish it, and you understand, of course, that they're like a teacher at the end of the semester where they're grading a million thousand research papers and have to go through them all
Mhm.
and and separate them and do the weeding out for what would be appropriate for their press and their audience and where they are and whether or not there are, lots of other fictions that they've already accepted that have to do
Mhm.
with people and mushrooms and not yours. and 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 honestly, it's a very difficult job, and I know that, and I feel genuinely sorry for those editors that have that patience to read through a huge slush pile, knowing that they're almost
Mhm.
always going to be saying no, including to me. And it's not always because your book is terrible or what it might just simply be that it's a great shoe, it's a great foot, but not the right fit. And that's
Mm.
okay because that's how it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for so much of the time it is luck of the draw, and it's really disappointing when people are disheartened by that rejection because it's not for the weak to go through that process. Did you ever, for any of your books that you've published, did you ever consider going down the self-publishing route for any of those, or were you determined to have a press behind you?
I really admire people who have the patience and the time to do self-publishing, but honestly, knowing the level of commitment that they have to make to things like artwork and
Mm.
layout and distribution, I admire the patience. It's a patience I don't have. It's kind of like being somebody who's really good at baking but really crummy at running a restaurant,
Mm.
and that would be me. I'm that kind of person who's sort of covered with flour there in the back going, "Wait a minute, what? We have to have menus?" And
Fab analogy.
so again,
Oh.
I respect the heck out of people who do that because, uh, and and believe me, it's a privilege to be able to work with people who already know what they're doing, which is not me, and so I admire people who learn that from the ground up.
Mm. Yeah, it's fascinating to okay, from the point that I first explored this whole like indie scene. It was like 2 years ago, and I went in there like a Disney character, going, "I'm going to write a book. I'm going to get published. It's going to be so easy." And then I learned about the querying process, and it was so off-putting. And then I learned about self-publishing, which was also off-putting, but slightly less for me. Because the rejection was a different style of rejection. And I still, to this day, think that self publishing would be my preferred method of getting books into people's hands. But I can absolutely see why it would be a massive amount of comfort to have a team behind you, even if that team isn't particularly big,
It
because it's hard out there.
It is hard out there, and honestly, I'm super grateful to the robust online horror community that
Mm.
exists, out there who can share basically, uh, stories of, "Yeah, I tried to um, I tried to get this published, it's been rejected 12 times," and it's like, "Well, you know what? You're a great author. I love your stuff, and you're getting rejected. So you know what?
Mm.
It might not be them or you, just might be circumstances that are beyond anybody's control, really."
Mhm.
And not to take it personally, and that genuinely does help, to know that.
Oh, for sure, yeah, and if you I mean, statistically, if you look at the amount of people that have written books, there are I think there's over 1,000,000 authors registered with Amazon,
Wow, that doesn't surprise me,
which is
actually.
obscene. If you think about book choice, that's obscene. That's so hard, and it also makes me sad because I don't think I'm ever gonna read all the books I wanna read before I die, and that just it makes me feel all existential and horrible. But if in terms of competition, if you think like the majority of people probably do use Amazon to purchase books or find books, or they read them on Kindle or whatever, um, it's so hard for people to see your books shine if they're in amongst like millions of other books.
Ye
How have you had to be like super involved in your own marketing process?
yes, no, I'm bad at my own marketing process, to be honest with you, and
Everyone is. It's okay.
no, well, there's bad and then there's bad, and and honestly, it's part of it is a time issue,
Mm,
um, because, like almost everybody, I don't do this for a living, I can't,
mhm.
and I don't have an independently wealthy, uncle there in the background going, "Oh, yes, please, quit your job and do this all the time." Um, and, but I know that there are a lot of other people that are much more expert, than I, and that's another reason why I appreciate, uh, Stellarform Press, for example, for
Mhm,
recommending me for the Small Spec Book Awards, and because they've got their finger more on that pulse of who's out there who would be interested, and I'm grateful for that
mhm.
assistance, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I definitely think things like the SSBA and being put forward for even for nominations for things still does wonders, and it's like free marketing, really. I don't think
Yes.
you have to pay to be submitted into most awards. But I mean, that's fantastic marketing because it shows it gives that like sense of value
Mhm.
almost like stickers on books that gives a sense of value, and the place where you find it gives it a sense of value, so it just adds to that, I think. So like psychologically people see that and they go, oh, that's something to recognize, as opposed to like any random book that you'd find. So yeah, I definitely think that's a good thing to have in your sort of back pocket if you're able to, even if it's like to nominate yourself for awards if you can. I definitely think that's worth doing because I've read tons of books from the SSBA just because they've been around. I wasn't even a reader for them, but I was like, that looks good. I'm gonna read that.
Yeah, and honestly, just having that out there, and having somebody say, "Yeah, by the way, we also like this book,"
Hmm.
is and even having like the cover art or the description, something to pull
Hmm.
somebody in and um, say, you might really like this.
Mm, absolutely. In the interest of trying to get people to read your work, would you be able to give the listeners an overview of You Will Speak for the Dead just to see um, if anyone is interested in reading it?
Absolutely. It's about this young man whose name is Paul, and he's gotten a business started cleaning up hoarder houses. Not like the really you know need to have the whole hazmat crew come in
Hmm.
level, but more something that you can handle with a small crew and a large dumpster.
Okay.
And through that, he's gets a job cleaning out the house of a who's having some issues with caring for herself. And
Mhm.
during that experience, um, he begins to sense for various plot reasons I don't want to be too spoilery about, he starts sensing much more of her presence and feeling as if his memories and hers are becoming intense.
Mhm.
And so, in many ways, it's a book about, to borrow the title of a great book on fungi, it's about entangled lives
Mhm.
and about the difficult relationship that we have with death and loss and grief,
Mhm.
and certainly it feeds into hoarding as a psychological issue, but also just how we hold ourselves, our memories or our experiences, and partly because we never want to lose some of these things, and yet we know that that loss is inevitable.
Mm.
And I think it's that balance between those two of knowing you have to let it go and yet not being able to, that I think is a primary tension at the heart of this book.
Mm.
So, plus it's got really cool body horror, and you probably don't want to read certain sections of it while you're, eating lunch, or especially anything involving mushrooms. And the next time that you're taking a bath and you're like, "Hey, what is that on my toe?" Please think of me. Um,
Fantastic. I'm sold. So, in terms of the creation of this story, did you always set it out to have that as the core of it, or and like how did it
oh,
develop? Did it start off as a different thing? I'll stop asking questions so you can answer them.
oh, no, no. Um, I'm trying to, like a lot of ideas, it sort of braided itself together off of a lot of just disparate strands. I
Mm.
knew that at some point I wanted to write about my mom's house, um,
Mm.
because when she passed, my family and I had the genuinely unwelcome task of cleaning out her stuff. And she was not a hoarder; she was a placer.
Mm.
And the distinction that I'm making is that on the surface, everything looked like it was, it was there and it was in place and there wasn't stuff on the floor. But she pretty much never got rid of anything. And
Mm.
but once it was in place, she never wanted to move it or deal with it. It was just there permanently.
Mm.
And so going through these things that for many, many years was horrible and wrenching, and as it would be. And that in many ways was the core of the story, but I didn't know where to go with it.
Mhm.
And so I was walking my dog, as one does, and I
Mm.
got this image of a basement and just packed full of stuff, literally to the ceiling. And then
Mm.
out of that packed stuff, a woman's hand, a dead hand, reaching out, and I knew that it was going to clasp the hand of the main character, but that's all I knew.
Mm.
And initially, I thought of it as a sort of like a Stephen King Carrie, hand from the grave
Mhm.
moment, but that evolved and changed a lot over the course of the book, and it became something very different.
Hmm.
And then in doing research about hoarding and hoarder houses and cleanup, I ran across something unknown to me, having grown up in the desert Southwest,
Mhm.
which is that houses that have a lot of issues with mold can
Mm.
also have literal mushrooms growing out of the walls. And I was thinking, like, oh my
Wow.
God, you're kidding me. And so that led me down an internet rabbit hole. And those strands essentially braided together to form this book.
Fascinating. So, what period of time did this span across? Was it a number of months, years?
Oh, not years, thank God. No, I would say probably the better part of a year, in terms of going between writing and researching and editing and
Mm.
going back and fixing it. Yeah, I'd say probably the better part of a year.
Hmm.
Not quite a year then.
That's not too bad.
No, no.
That's pretty good. It's so satisfying when you have like a seed, and you're trying to figure out how to grow it, and then it happens in succession. You're like, oh, okay, now I have a story. Amazing.
Well,
Um, Such a good feeling.
and, it's funny the degree to which the research that I've done for various things has ended up massively shaping,
Mm.
the end products because Uh, I had no I had no idea about the complexity of fungi. I know that that's probably sounds super dorky to anybody who's listening. Like, "Oh, yeah, I bet you have yeah, I bet you're great at parties." Um, but but my god, I mean, all I had was, like, ninth grade biology, and you
Mhm.
learned about it as one of the various kingdoms, and but falling into YouTube videos and then books and reading about this topic, it's like, my God, there's
Mhm.
so much there. And that intertwinedness with my research and was became part of the book, a really crucial part. And I'm glad that if it if that most of a year of research and writing took that long, then great because it made a better work than I had in the first place.
That's fabulous, and it definitely sounds like it was a fantastic vessel for you to be able to tell the story of these humans together. Was the act of writing based on your the experience that you had with your mother's house an act of catharsis, or was it painful? Like how did that manifest for you? Oh, that's an awful word. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I don't know if there is such a thing as a catharsis in dealing with the death of a family member that,
Mm,
and the more complicated the relationship, the less cathartic I think that anything can really be,
for sure, yeah.
but it's a matter, I think, of you don't get over it, you don't get around it, you just sort of grow up within and around it, and it
Mhm.
becomes part of you like a plant that grows up through a chain link.
Mhm.
And that I think was helpful because no matter what, no matter who I'm writing about, whether or not they're a protagonist with whom I sympathize, or an antagonistic force, or just a side character, I I come to understand them because I have to see the world through their perspective, and at
Mhm.
least I think that it gave me much more understanding of her and
Mm,
how she was, and she why she clung to the things that she did, and I wish I could give her this book and say, I know horror is not your thing, but
mm.
here you go.
No, the psychological aspect of hoarding is fascinating to me, and it's very difficult to have, for me anyway, to have empathy for people who do experience that in their day-to-day life. I've definitely experienced it secondhand, but it's not something that I hope, touch wood, will ever, have as part of my main life. But did you have to do much research in terms of like the psychology of the whole thing, or was it something that was largely from personal experience for you?
Kind of both,
Mm.
because I certainly did want to delve into the psychological reasons for why it is that people hoard. And, because my primary experience had been catching a couple of episodes of Hoarders on
Hmm.
TV. And obviously it's exploitative as it's meant to be, it's television, but
Hmm.
it was also, um, I went back and rewatched a couple of episodes, and I found them profoundly disturbing because, especially when the person whose house it was present, because even something as comparative valueless, at least to the outsiders, like an old water bottle,
Hmm.
it meant something to them. And it was clearly part of them that was being taken away. And on the logical
Mm.
level, they might know, no, this is just an old Aquafina bottle. You can let it go.
Yeah.
Um, but it represented more,
Mm.
and I thought of, a ferret that I used to, that who that I used to own, who's,
Oh.
and this story made it into the book. She was a hoarder. And her weird little pattern was, I was a smoker at the time. I'm no longer, but I was back then. And I kept losing lighters, and I kept blaming other people because it's like, "Where are my," I just had it. It was right here.
Mhm.
And then and then, months and months later when I was going to move, I opened up this cabinet that had retractable legs, and so it had this, hollow that you could get into if you were a ferret from underneath, and the and I knew she hung out there because it was like a little ferrety den, so it's like, "Yeah, okay." There are hundreds of them, hundreds of lighters, all
What?
arranged in a specific pattern with their little teeny lightery heads pointed in one direction. When she came to a corner, she rotated them about, she rotated them, a quarter turn, and it was like,
Oh
"Okay,
my god.
this is magnificent and also a little psycho." Um,
That's
and
magic. Oh my
and
god.
so being from the desert Southwest, I started thinking about pack rats, which, archaeologists can use to detect climate change over millennia, tens of millennia, because because this is a little gross, sorry, a grossness alert for your listeners. Their urine is very, very, close to being syrupy because of the lack of water in the desert environment, and so,
Huh.
basically, it's like preserving something in amber, but it will freeze the leaves and seeds and the records of the climate going back for tens of thousands of years.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and so, desert archaeologists know a whole lot about what the climate looked like, 10, 20,000 years ago because of pack rat pee, basically.
That is really cool. It's a little bit metal as well. Like I love that very much. I didn't know we were going to get pea facts, and I'm very pleased at this turn of events. Oh dear. Well, thank you for that nugget. I am very
Anytime.
pleased, and I will be sharing that with people.
Well, please do. Come to me for pack rat facts and,
That's glorious. Oh my goodness. Um, so this next question is either going to be very easy for you or very difficult for you, but take your time
Oh god.
if you need to. How would you describe yourself as a writer?
Oh god, I don't even know how to answer that question.
We can come back to it if you need
Oh
a little hint.
boy.
Um,
I don't know, my images of somebody who sort of, like, lives under a rock typing things, but, which is pretty close to the truth, but, um, I I am, in terms of the writing that I do, and the writing that I like to read, I am most interested in the kind of horror that focuses on, less on jump scares, although, hey, jump scares are cool, but less on jump scares and more about the internal life of the characters who are living through this situation. And I love horror because it is, at least for me, it's a genre that more than almost any other genre fiction besides science fiction with which it overlaps quite a lot,
Mhm.
it tells the truth.
Mm,
It tells the truth and it uses the tropes of the fiction to do that. And certainly the operative trope in a lot of my work, specifically this one, is the haunted house.
mm,
But haunted houses are really haunted people,
mhm,
and the house is that outward manifestation of the people that lived there, including the one that's being haunted. And that internal process, where it's an externalized version of an internal reality, is something that I respond to very much in the fiction that I love,
mm,
written by other people like Shirley Jackson for one thing, or Daphne du Maurier, or Stephen King, or Cormac McCarthy, and those are very diverse writers. I would hate to get Shirley Jackson and Cormac McCarthy in the same room,
mhm.
but
I mean, it might be fabulous.
it might. I bet they might be able to bond over like whiskey. I'm hoping, but yeah, I guess that's I try to be the kind of writer whose work I would like to read as a reader, which is really
Mm.
solipsistic, but there it is.
But I will say, if you write the things that you love and you write the books that you would want to read, it makes it much easier for the reader to feel how excited you are to tell the story.
I hope so because I always am. And I love that. I love that process.
Mhm.
Even the part of the process that people hate, which is the editing. I enjoy I enjoy the editing in some ways more because then it that no matter what, it's a done deal.
Mhm.
It's a done deal. It is what it is, and you can go back and fix it and make it better, which we can't do with life. Um, and you've gotten to that end, and it is a thing, and now you can make it a better thing.
Here, here. The process of coming up with an idea and getting it to a point where you're comfortable for other people to read it
Mm.
can be painful in a way, I think, because I mean the whole thing is painful to me, because I mean even to the point where people are reading it because it's so vulnerable to have people read your work,
Mm.
because that's the inside voice in your mind,
Mm.
and now it's out there and it's a tangible thing, and then people will read it with their eyes and it will go into their brains, and the whole thing feels very intimate, um, and they might not like it, and that freaks me out.
I and the thing is that I assume that there will always be people who are like, "No, this is boring and stupid. I need no,"
Mm,
and that's fine because hey, when I've we've all had people that recommend books or you see advertised and you go to the bookstore or you listen to the first couple of minutes of it on Audible and you're like, no, just no. And it's not again back to that, back to the analogy of a shoe and a foot.
mhm.
It's really often just the fit, and that
Yeah.
and sometimes too, I'll come back to books that that just man, I've knocked at that door and nobody is answering, and I'll come back and years later, and it's like, my God, this is a work of genius. Why didn't I see it before? And it's
Mm.
well because I just wasn't in that place. Mm.
That's a good point. That is a good point. There have definitely been books in my past that I've started to read and I thought it's terrible. Um,
Yeah.
and then or you'll hear somebody say you've just got to get past the first chapter or something
Mm.
like that. And then you push through and you do it and you're like, "Oh man, I deprived myself of thinking about this story for months."
I felt that way, about a number of outstanding TV series, for example. I mean, I know
Mm,
that's verging off a little bit, but where it's like, just plug through the first 4 episodes. I'm thinking that's 4 hours of my life
right.
or so.
That's a chance to take. That's taking
Yeah,
a real chance because
yeah.
sometimes people are wrong and I don't trust them after that.
Well, and the thing is that, you don't always know what somebody loves that hooks them, and I've God knows I've recommended plenty of books to plenty of people. But you'll hear criticisms of those books like, "Oh, it was really, Shirley Jackson is really super slow. Nothing really happens." And it's like, things do, but I see what you mean.
Mm. Yeah, I find excessive scene description to be a distraction to me.
Mhm. I
But
don't necessarily need to know that the curtains are blue unless that really super matters.
for sure, yes. I'm like, okay, so if you're building the atmosphere, I'm on board with it 100%. But if we're just having a look around, I find that really hard to keep going with because I can make the pictures. I've already made the picture in my mind.
Mhm.
So to then tell me that it's different, that frustrates me because I'm like, okay, yeah, they're on a road. I imagine a road, but then we're imagining like the stones and the grass and the whatever. I'm like, what were we talking about? And I get
Mm.
so easily distracted that it just completely throws me off of the storyline. Um, oh yeah, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I
Mm,
mean, I think you've gotta if you're a writer, you've got to ask yourself, okay, it's kinda like when you're packing for a hiking trip,
mm,
that every single thing in your pack, if you're gonna be carrying it on your back for hundreds of miles, it needs to earn its weight, and it usually
mm,
needs to earn its weight by being good for more than just one single thing. Like, I can, yeah, here's a tarp, but I can also throw it over my head for a raincoat.
mm,
Um, and I feel like descriptions of setting are kind of like that, where it's got to be doing the double duty. It's gotta be
Mm.
telling me about the setting, sure, but also about the character, how the character is seeing and experiencing that setting and why we care.
Mhm.
And otherwise, you're right, it's just scene decoration, like, "Oh, good, here's a rock."
For sure, yeah, and I think it's good to have that in the initial stages when you're like building the world or building the scene, but it doesn't always need to make it into the final thing. But each to
Mhm.
their own. I know people that love things like that. They eat it for breakfast, so it's definitely an each to their own thing. Going back to your sort of attitude towards understanding that it's not for everybody and not everybody's going to like it. Have you always been like that, or is that something you've developed over your writing career?
Oh god, no, it's something that I have had to you develop, and mostly by and I don't mean to sound vampiristic, and I apologize, but mostly by seeing really, good, writers get rejected also, or reading about authors that
Mm.
whose work is now celebrated,
Mhm.
um, get rejected 30, 40 times
Mhm.
before one publisher recognizes, "No, this really is a work of genius." Or even like somebody like Herman Melville, where he's struggling along with his, has some really good hits with those South Sea stories, but then when he gets into like Whales and the Book of Revelation and Obsession um, and the mechanics of butchering whales, people are like, "Nah, thanks, no thanks," and he pretty much almost goes into obscurity until somebody resurrects him in the 20s
Mm.
and says, "No, no, guys, this is really good." And this is, I mean, now it's acclaimed as being one of the leading works of American fiction, as it should
Mhm.
be, because it's an amazing book.
Mhm.
But at the same time, no, dude had his share of rejection slips, as did Stephen King.
Mhm.
He had a whole nail, as I recall, when he was first starting out, where he'd put rejection slips, and that nail filled up with thanks but no thanks letters.
Wow.
And now the guy could probably publish his laundry list, as I'm sure you'd be the first to say, um,
Yeah.
and be very frank about it. So it's not ultimately a quality, I think, of the writing. Maybe sometimes, but
Mhm.
not just categorically, or whether or not I, as an author, stink, which I might. Um, but sometimes it's just right place, right time, right reader, right
Mm.
book.
Yeah, there is a large amount of chance. Obviously, talent and skill will come into it, and that's deeply important. But I think for the grand scheme of success in writing, as I said before, because it's so saturated, like everyone I know's written a book. It's not like a thing that only the elite writers of the world are allowed to do anymore. So yeah, sometimes it is chance. But no, I'm glad that you've been able to develop that attitude towards it because it's I meet lots and lots and lots of different writers constantly, and you get people that are comfortable and secure in themselves as writers enough to be like, I'm still going to keep writing, and I don't really care if everybody loves it or everybody hates it, but the story's important to me, and that's why it's going out there. And then you do get some people that are like, it sounds really awful, but come across as a little bit desperate for everybody to love what they're doing,
Mhm.
and they can't accept that people might not like it.
The thing is, and with all respect to all writers, because
Mhm.
I don't think it's been an easy profession since the first person put a chisel to a stone tablet. Um, I honestly think that that you can't write to an audience that is this programmatic thing. I mean, well, you can, of course. I mean, people do
Mhm.
it all the time, but but I can't, and I
Mhm.
don't think that a lot of really good writers can either. And I'm not saying that commercial writers who have a lot of success sticking to a beat sheet or to a pretty formulaic form of writing.
Mhm.
By the way, they're not all bad either. They're
Yeah.
not. And gee, a lot of people read them and really enjoy them, and that is a power and a pleasure that I don't think that we should diminish. I
Mhm.
I am not able to be that kind of writer. I got in college, I remember. coming across a beat sheet for I don't even remember when or why, but
Mm,
it was like, okay, in the first 10%, this has to happen, and then here are the ways that it has to end. And I'm like, but what if I don't want it to end that way?
mm,
And then I realized, okay, I appreciate the information about pacing, which is great,
mhm,
and thank you. But the rest of it I can't really use. Not
mhm.
me, and that doesn't mean that it's not useful for somebody else and enjoyable for somebody else to read, but it's not the kind of writer that I am able to be.
Yeah. Yeah, not everybody's built to do that, and it depends what your idea of success is as well. Because if
Mhm.
your idea of success is completing a story, even if it's just for you, then if you've done that, you've won. But if your idea of success is like is fitting into that formula and having a measurable, you know, successive sales numbers, or getting on a list of for whatever, then I think the paths are very very clear. And I don't I'm pretty sure you said this earlier, but nobody gets into writing to make money, and
They shouldn't
they
anyway.
shouldn't, because they might be very disappointed and unfulfilled in their life. But the fact that it's so accessible to so many people is what is so exciting to me, is that everybody's got a story, if it's verbal or written down or drawn or painted. And getting the opportunity to hear people's stories, whether they're fiction or fact, or a mix of the two, is really cool, and I'm a big fan.
I am too, and, in doing research for this thing I'm writing now, if it had not been for, people's individual accounts of really super niche stuff,
Hmm.
that was published by, niche publishers to an audience probably numbering in the hundreds.
Hmm.
Honestly, I would have been, um, at a genuine loss for some invaluable, insight and information.
Hmm.
And so, I think, again, although uh, commercial publishers are out there to make a lot of money, which is completely sensible. I get it.
Hmm.
They have bills too.
Hmm.
Um, but I also appreciate the fact that these, like, weird niche works that are individual and strange, and not necessarily going to end up on everybody's plate. God, I'm so glad that they exist.
Me friggin' too. It's apparently my jam now, and I didn't realize that. If you'd have told me 3.5 years ago that I would be talking to indie writers and indie presses and reading largely, like 90% of the time, indie books, I'd have said, what's that? What does
Mm.
that mean? I don't know what that is. And,
Yeah,
and
what's the difference between indie and self-publish, and how is that, I would not have had a clue
no,
before. Yeah.
it's been exciting though, and I will say, if I had a choice, and this is, I am biased and I don't care, if I had a choice between picking up an indie book or only having to, oh, sorry, let me start again. If I had a choice between only reading indie books and only reading traditionally published books for the rest of my life, I would stick with indie, because I have read the weirdest stories that I have ever read by reading indie books, and something that I cannot find in traditional publishing, because I love like weird voices and off the wall humor, and I love people being little bit edgy, and I don't like the structures all being the same. And
No, no, me
that's
neither,
what's
and
happening recently.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way. I'd never thought of it before, but you're right. I would make that same choice, and really for the same exact reason, because
Mm,
I would know that whatever I'm going to be getting in my, bookshelf of the future,
hmm.
it's not going to be what I expect, and I
Hmm.
like that.
Yeah. It's very exciting, and I know that. I mean, there have been tons. I'm not going to pretend like every indie book that I read is amazing, because they're not. It's the same as any book. Like I found a very similar percentage of readability on either side of the spectrum, but I know I'm usually in for some sort of wild ride for the most part, and I love that so much, especially indie horror. That's my absolute top favorite. So I'm very excited to read your work, because, as I said when I was prepping for this, I was like, man, how have I not read these already? Because they sound amazing. Um,
Well, thank you. I genuinely hope you enjoy it.
I'm certain I will. After talking to you, I'm like, I'm gonna like these. I know I will. So I have two more questions for you before we head off for the day. So firstly, what is next for you in terms of writing? Are you working on anything at the moment? I
Ye
feel like you said something about it earlier.
Yeah, I've been taking the plunge to write a novel,
Ooh.
and I know I probably still would have done it if I had known how long it was going to take and how involved it was going to get.
Hmm.
I still would have done it, uh, but it's a little nerve-wracking because because I know that there's some writers that can work on project A in the morning and project B at night or in the afternoon. I can't. I'm a project A person.
Hmm.
Um, and so for the past year, I've been doing a lot of research and writing, and now, thank God, I'm in that editing practice, and I'm so glad because because now I just have to worry about, okay, did I say the same thing 5 pages ago? Oh, I did. Rather than, oh God, what am I going to have happen next, and
Hmm.
how does that bring us towards the conclusion? And
Hmm.
so, to use that birthing metaphor again, the baby's out now, I just have to worry about cleaning it up.
Excellent. So, do you have like an expected timeline? I'm not trying to put pressure on you in any way, but do you have like, are you hoping to finish it by the end of next year?
Oh, I would
What are your
love to
thoughts?
get it done. Okay, I would love to get at least the preliminary first pass editing done by the end of this year, which is not gonna happen because, as we know, that's only in days.
Yes, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, 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 it ain't gonna happen, but at least I can get closer.
Hmm.
Um, and then do, like, another pass, and then just start the delightful process of querying, for a novel, like, "Hi, you wanna read, like, 90,000 words of stuff that I wrote?" Um,
They might.
I hope I hope, and if not, again, then I've written it, it's done, I think it'll be good, and hopefully I'll keep at it, and hopefully there will be another great meeting of the minds where it's like, "Yay, this is a great work that we were looking for something like this," and I'll be delighted.
Amazing. Well, best of luck. I am certain that you'll be successful, and I wish you all the luck in the world. Before I let you leave, where can people find your work?
Well, they can find me on Amazon actually,
Mhm.
and on R.A. Busby website. I'm also on Threads and Blue Sky, and certainly through Stelliform Press or Cemetery Gates Media.
Mhm.
So
Great. Well, thank you. I will put the links for those all on the description of this episode. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me today. And another, I don't know how many times I've said it, but another congratulations for your win for the Small Spec Book Awards 2025. Um, I hope that you continue to write for the rest of your days because it sounds like you are built for it. And I hope you never stop.
thank you so much. That's very kind of you.